The Ultimate Doom contains 36 levels, all of which vary in quality. Some levels are widely adored, others less so. One thing I wanted to ask, have the most disliked levels in the Ultimate Doom earned their bad reputation? To find the levels that are most disliked, I looked to Tier Maker. Doom gamers have compiled their own lists of favourite levels, giving us a really useful community ranking that tells us where each level generally places. And there's quite a few that make it into the lowest rank on this tier list. Do all these levels deserve this level of hate? Well, let's quickly go through and talk about them. Small disclaimer, remember this is my personal opinion on these levels, you can disagree and I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Fear isn't necessarily a terrible level, it's just incredibly forgettable. This level leaves little impression, and after its bombastic opening, it gives way to one of the most generic layouts that you can imagine. The courtyard to the south, near the exit, is so barren, yet teases something much more impressive. If this area was filled with enemies and it became a chaotic area, it would be so much more memorable. The main centerpiece of this level is the Baron trapped in the cage, but this is completely skippable and honestly it's just not that fun to play through. Like, if you know exactly where you're going from the start of this level, you can be done in about 25 seconds and you don't even have to go near the centerpiece of the level. That's how skippable it is. The room itself isn't that much to look at either, so there's that as well. Honestly, I don't think Fear is that terrible, but I get why so many people have put it here, probably because so many people don't even come to this level from E4M2. It's one of those levels that doesn't make a big impression, but I personally don't think it belongs in the bottom tier, so I disagree with this one. Fortress of Mystery is the most simple and lazy level in the whole of Ultimate Doom. This level is 2 rooms slapped together with the tease of infighting and a bunch of ammo as the only positives. There's nothing much to say about this level because that's all there is to this level. It also bothers me that the exit is hidden behind a secret wall. It's just lazy. The fact that several of the console ports end on this level is just tragic. I 100% agree with this ranking, it's awful, and yeah, it's only a pit stop. The penultimate level to the Spider Mastermind boss fight does a lot of interesting things, but not many of them very well. I am genuinely surprised to see people rated it this lowly however. There's a huge contrast in this level, from tight spaces through to huge rooms. This is a massive level and it's easy to get lost in it. I think what hurts this level is the teleporter puzzles, which on first playthrough can be insanely frustrating. It's not easy to find all the teleporters in the first place, never mind figuring out which ones take you where. After a few playthroughs you'll get the hang of it, but I assume a few players didn't like their first playthroughs of this one and just decided they hated it outright, which I totally understand. There's a lot of pain floors in this one as well, and a fair few enemies who'll just track you through the level. If you're not a fan of teleporter puzzles, then I can totally understand why this one is not for you. Personally, I don't hate this one, I wouldn't put it in the bottom ranking, so I have to disagree with its placement here, but I'm sure there are many who just hate it outright. Unholy Cathedral is a very messy level and one that fails to stick the landing. It's not a particularly strong level and its core teleporter puzzle is so awkward and weak that I feel the whole level gets dragged down by it. You can explore the level quite a bit without ever touching the teleporters. The central room with all the Barons of Hell gets stale fast though, and hiding the yellow key door in here is just weird. I think what really brings it down is that the series of rooms that the game presents doesn't really lend itself to imaginative battles. Even the ending room where enemies spawn in fails to raise this one, and I usually find myself just grabbing the blue key and making a mad dash for the exit. I would probably put this one on the bottom tier as well, I think it earns that spot. This is a boss level, and the base Doom games don't really do those very well, at least in the original 3 episodes. This level is here to showcase the Spider Mastermind, which it does, but with the absolute minimum effort. There's no real challenge here, and barely anything to do outside of grabbing ammo and guns. The addition of additional monsters on higher difficulties really doesn't add anything to the battle. On Tower of Babel, the Lost Souls made the Cyberdemon fight that much more tense, because you didn't know what they were going to do. But here the Cacodemons and Baron are just there for the ride, and usually get killed by the Spider Mastermind anyway. Not a great ending to the original trilogy of episodes, bare bones indeed, and yeah, I'd put it in the bottom tier. Hell Keep is by far the weakest of the first levels in Ultimate Doom, but it didn't have to be that way. The level contrasts large open areas with small, cramped corridors, yet somehow manages to make all of the above feel wearsome. The idea of unleashing 2 Cacodemons on the player at the start of the episode is a bold one, but in execution it doesn't pose that much of a challenge. There's rooms filled with imps that don't allow for any kind of creative fighting. Perhaps the level's weakest part though is the slog through the pinkies, where you're forced to take them all down in the least engaging way imaginable. This is a level that feels like way more could have been done with it, something that the secret level of Inferno corrects much later on. The sad truth, the console version of this level is arguably more engaging, a real disappointment, and I can understand why people are just not happy with it. But that's the thing with Doom, everyone has their own favourites and least favourite levels. Personally, I think Fortress of Mystery and Dis are the weakest levels, with Unholy Cathedral rounding out my personal bottom 3. Luckily all 3 can be played quickly and are stepping stones to bigger things. They're not disgustingly bad, they're just boring for me. But I am curious to hear which of these levels you have differing opinions on. Are these rankings right on the money for you, or do you have different opinions? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts on these levels.